Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome to your Verano 1711 podcast. This is your host, Mark, coming to you from Honduras. If you have no idea where that is located, don't worry, you will find it. Today, another episode here in the podcast. Remember, this is a platform for scholars where we discuss about, religion, Bible, scholarship, everything. And we want to serve and be that platform for those scholars who have done a lot of work and that we want to provide more and more attention to their scholarship. Today, I am joined by Dr. Kristin Detroyer. Dr. Detroyer, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. I'm sorry that I'm answering in English, but it's my Spanish is limited, but I can hablo español también. So, yes.
Oh, goodness. That's awesome. Okay, for everybody Spanish speaking people, because I have a Spanish audience here. So that's a good one. That's another reason, big reason to keep an eye on Dr. Detroyer's work. So thank you for that. You guys, scholars, most of the time they tend to be learned in various languages, German, French, English. So Spanish is very rare on scholars. So you are one of those exceptions. So I'm glad for that. Let me tell you this, Dr. Detroyer. I previously have Dr. Elvira Martin Contreras from Spanish, from
Wonderful.
Spain, and I understand you both know each other.
Yes, we know each other. We're actually going to be in a session talking about Masoretes, which are the marginal notes in the Bible. So she has edited a fantastic book, and it's going to be presented in November, and I have to give a response. So yeah, she's
Excellent.
amazing. Elvira is
No,
amazing.
I agree with you, and I'm pretty sure she has the same appreciation for you. So that's awesome. So everybody, just go into things here. We're going to take advantage of Dr. Detroyer's time. We want to respect that and value her time. Today, we're going to be discussing about the Septuagint, how important it is, the transmission. And Dr. Detroyer, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's specialized. This is one of areas of expertise of hers. So we're gonna be talking about that. She has this book chapter in a book that recently came out, which is Behind the Scenes of the New Testament, edited by Bruce Longenecker. By the way, Dr. Detroyer, Dr. Longenecker is sending greetings to you.
That's
And
great.
he
was my
said, "Oh,
former
that's
colleague.
awesome! You are bringing Dr. Detroyer. She's great. So thank you."
That's good.
So I'm
He was
passing
my
those.
He was
Yeah.
my colleague in St. Andrews. When I arrived in St.
Oh, really?
Andrews, he was just his last time there, and then his other colleague, who's also the editor of the book, Elizabeth Shively. She's also amazing.
Yeah.
She also used to be my colleague. So yes, we all
Oh.
come together somewhere. Yes.
So, Dr. Detroyer, would you say it would be a great thing to have those guys in the show as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Detroyer, before we can get into things, just give us a bit of your background, just for everybody who can locate you, who you are, your credentials, your specialty. Please give us a bit of that.
Okay. Do you have half an hour or? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll try to summarize it. So I'm actually a native from Belgium. So
Okay.
Belgium, the small country, right? And I studied philosophy and sciences of religion and theology in Belgium. And then I moved to the Netherlands for my PhD, and I did my PhD at the University of Leiden. And then I had a kind of a dual life. I was, on the one hand, I was publishing books.
Sure.
And on the other hand, I was teaching in a Catholic seminary. That's where it all started. And so for about 10 years, I did that. And then I finished my PhD. And then about a year later, I got an offer from the Claremont School of Theology in Los Angeles, in Claremont, Los Angeles. And I moved there for 10 years. And then after that, I was called to take up a chair at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. So I moved from Los Angeles to Scotland, a bit chilly. I stayed there for 7 years. And then I got the possibility of moving to Salzburg in Austria. And I love Salzburg. So me and my son, we moved to Salzburg. And so I've been there now already 10 years. And I've been there professor. I have been Just last year I was provost, and so I have been doing different functions, but my love is the Greek version of the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Septuagint. And the Septuagint actually is a collection of books. So you have to imagine it's not the Septuagint, but it is a collection of books.
Yeah, thank you for giving us that background. Now we're going now getting to things here. In social media, there's, I don't know what you think about this, Dr. Detroyer, but it's great that we're living in the, what do you call it? The digital era, where information is coming and going. But at the same time, conversely, we're having a lot of disinformation. And biblical studies is no exception. So social media, it's a wild thing. It's a wild world. You can get accurate, good info, but also you can come across really bad and
I agree.
and wrong information. Yeah,
I agree.
And
but I think we have to train our students better and our audience better, because I actually believe that if you get a very good education and you learn to think, then that is the best weapon against anti-democratic movements. So I'm all in favor of education, which leads to democracy. And if you have people that are good, well, educated, then you can have a good society. I'm not saying that people who are not educated are not good people. That I will never say.
Yeah, I agree with you.
We have to trust. We have to trust that when we study things and that when we learn things, then we can make the world a better place.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. 100%. Education, it's a must. But I, as my mentor used to say, I don't know if you know him or anything about Michael Heiser. He already passed away, unfortunately. But he used to say, most of the people they possess this, what do you call it? This idea that only people holding a PhD is smart people. Make no mistake.
No, that's not true. My mother was a midwife, and she had a bachelor's education, but in her hands, a quarter of the city was born, and so she contributed immensely.
Really?
And so we have to, no. So we have to accept people for who they are, but we have the duty to learn and to study and to be aware of things, and we should be careful with media. I sometimes check media, and I'm a bit, I'm not always happy with what I see.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Okay, let's move on now. We're getting into this book chapter on this book. Just give us like a bit of like how you got to write this book chapter. What was the preparation? I know it takes. I suffer a lot, and you may think, okay, this guy is making too much about this. But when I'm writing a 5 pages essay, I suffer. And when I turn to you guys, you're writing a 400 pages, 300 pages, 500 pages book, and that's something that really, my hats off to you scholars. It's a craft, it's an art that writing a book, it's enormous. So, Dr. Detroyer, give us what was the preparation about this book chapter, how you come to write about that. Go ahead.
Okay, so actually this chapter, because it's actually a book on what happens behind the scenes of the New Testament.
Yes.
And so this all started a couple of years ago when a colleague of mine from the university where I did my PhD, he said to me, Kristin, why are you not giving us a paper on everything that we New Testament scholars need to know about Hebrew Bible, and especially about Septuagint, the Greek version? And I thought it was a good idea, because New Testament scholars, or the New Testament authors, wrote in Greek. And so they were using Greek scriptures. They weren't using necessarily, I will make a little side note about that, Hebrew Bible. A lot of them were using the New Testament text. Now, you have to be careful. You have to make a distinction between when Jesus was alive and his disciples were alive, and when we start getting the first written reports, right? So the Gospels.
Yes.
And by the time a person like Luke, he is absolutely quoting Septuagint, so the Greek version. You have to be careful because Paul, for instance, he's a converted Jew, and so he was trained in Jewish scripture, in Hebrew scripture. So you have to be always careful what do they quote. But I took it on myself to just have a look at, for instance, Old Testament quotations in the New Testament. And so I prepared for that lecture, and I think that lecture where I showed my New Testament colleagues what kind of texts there were, not just the Hebrew Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible as we call it, right? But then also the Greek version. And then of the Greek versions, there are different, multiple versions of that one. So I was just trying to see what do we have and how do we get from what we have about the Old Testament Hebrew Bible and how it gets to the New Testament. And in between that, I also was working with a student from Wuppertal, which is a smaller theological education, a very fine place, which is unfortunately going to be closed soon.
Oh my goodness.
And there we were working on Isaiah quotations in the New Testament. And so I said to the student, be careful, because we don't know precisely which texts are quoted. And we actually went back and checked, what do we have? We have the Hebrew Bible, yes. We have the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, what we call the Septuagint, yes. But then we also have, aside from that, the Qumran text, the Dead Sea Scrolls. So you always have to check and see what did they write for your Isaiah text. And then when I had that, I also thought I need to check my early Jewish revisers. How did they correct the first Greek translations? Because, their time was not much different from ours. When there was a new Bible produced, you will have immediately people responding. And one will say, well, it's not close enough to the Hebrew, so we have to make it a little bit better, closer to the Hebrew. Or another one will say, I don't like the language, we have to work a little bit on the style. And these two kinds of things that we normally do also were happening in the earliest time. So even before Christ, there was a time where the first Jewish revisers who were already reading Greek text, they were still trying to correct the Greek text, and they said we need to bring it just a little bit closer to the Hebrew, right? And so they started making corrections. And if you then compare Hebrew text, Qumran text, the early Jewish corrections, and then the later revisions by Lucian or by Origen, you get a lot of text versions. And all these text versions were available for many of the New Testament writers. So it's not, we cannot say there was one Bible, right? There were different versions. And these different versions are, you can see the differences when you look at books, for instance, Jeremiah, where you have two versions already in Qumran, a longer one and a shorter one. So, if Jesus went to the temple in Jerusalem and he said, would like to read a little bit of Jeremiah, maybe the librarian asked a long version or the short version, So you have that for the book of Jeremiah, you have that for the book of Joshua, and probably for other books as well. So we have to start being aware that there is not just one text, there are multiple texts circulating at the same time.
That is true.
And so I started working on that in preparation for this one article. So it's not that I simply sat down on a Friday evening and decided to write it out. I worked for a long time, and I have the habit of writing everything down. I still use pencil. And so once I have all the data, and I know where I'm going, then I will start writing. But it takes me a long time. So no worries about you. If it takes you a long time, it takes me a long time.
Thank you for that, Dr. Detroyer. I mean, we laymen, we need to be more aware about the process, how a book or a book chapter is even written, the process, the whole, the research, everything. It takes time. It takes resources. It's a big of a thing, right? So now, this question on the screen, it takes us more on the importance, right? So could you tell us what the Septuagint, how the study of the Septuagint is important to better understand the transmission of the Jewish
Yes.
scriptures and New Testament itself?
Yes, that's actually a very good question. When we study the Septuagint, we see a first step of what I would call not just translation but interpretation. So when the Hebrew Bible was written, right, over a long time,
Yes.
it entered into a new phase when the peoples in the environment started to talk Greek, right? So, Alexander the Great comes around and he's starting a new culture in the East, and it's Greek. So people are moving from Hebrew and Aramaic to Greek. And so there is a need for the communities, not just in Egypt, that's a traditional view, but everywhere, to have scripture also available in Greek. And so the translation starts. But when you translate something, you always have in mind your audience, right? So you always have to say,
Yes.
would this still be making sense in this environment? So the text started to be adapted. And we don't have to be worried about adapting the text a little bit, because when you look at the book of Isaiah, we know that the first Isaiah, the first part, was written in, between 740 and 701 BCE. But then we know that the next school, the next followers of the big prophet Isaiah started to adapting that text in the Babylonian times. So new enemies, new context, so we adapt a bit. That's then Isaiah 2. And then the last part of Isaiah was only written in the Persian period. So we see in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, already a adaptation of text to the new context. And that is the same with the Septuagint. So with the Septuagint, we see a translation, but also an adaptation to a new context. I'll give maybe a funny example, not a funny example, a difficult example. The book of
Yeah.
Esther is, you might know the book of Esther, about this beautiful woman who becomes queen in the Persian Empire. But there's an enemy, he's called Haman, and he wants to kill all the Jews, right? And that is
Yes.
his goal. And there is in the narrative, you can see then how Esther is going to the king to plead on behalf of the people. And the king
That's
gives her,
right.
and Mordecai grants her the wish and say, no, do with your enemies as you want to do, and, be safe. Now, that is a really nice book. But in that book of Esther, nowhere in that beautiful book, which deals with the saving of the Jewish people, nowhere the name of God is mentioned. And that's a bit
Yes.
strange, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a biblical book without the name of God. So
Yeah.
when the Greek translator looks at the book and the Greek translator starts translating, he says, well, I have to put God in the text. So
Yeah.
he puts God in the text, and suddenly this book in which God is not mentioned suddenly is a book in which the prayers, Esther, before she goes to the king, she's praying to the king, or Mordecai is praying to the king. So every time there is an element of religion in the text. And that is a very beautiful example of how a text is translated and interpreted to function within a new community. Because the community, the Greek-speaking Jewish community, could not
Yes.
imagine that the main heroes of their story, the main woman who saves the Jewish people, never once utters the name of God. So in the translation, God pops up very regularly, and that is translation. And so when we read Hebrew Bible and then we see the Septuagint, we see an interpretation. And if we then look at the New Testament, we can see which authors in the New Testament were using which text. So it is actually the whole concept of Scripture is Scripture functions within a community of faithful people, and these people read the Bible and they read it so that it speaks to their situation. And that is something that we know that also from liberation theology in Southern America. I mean, in South America, people
Yes.
read the Bible in order to give them motivation to come out of a
Yes. Oh
dreadful
yeah.
situation. And so actually the first people who did that were those Greek translators who were working in the first century, second or third century BCE. They did the same thing.
Oh really? Okay. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. You know, and those are little details that we need to pay attention really about how this book really came out. You know, I didn't know that about the scribe or the editor or redactor adding the name of God into the text. I didn't know that. Now I know it.
Yes. Important
That's part of the
detail.
history. Yes, important detail for sure. Definitely, definitely. Okay, I understand, and there is because I've been reviewing some of well, not reviewing, but just making sure that the books you've been written. You have also written about Joshua, right?
Yeah.
You did some work with Dan Batovici. Is that how you call it,
Yeah,
Batovici?
Dan Batovici, he just got a
Yeah.
position in Vienna. He does more the New Testament stuff. You should interview him. He's also a great guy. And
Okay,
now
I
he
need
has
to
a,
I need to
yeah,
take
you write
notes.
it down. Write it down. It's important. Es importante.
Batovici.
Es muy importante. Sí. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll give you a list of names. Yeah.
Please, by all means, at the end of this interview, you can give me that. Okay, let's move on. Dr. Detroit, we're doing very good here. Now, pay attention to this one.
Yeah.
There
Yes.
are some examples, right?
Yes, there
Where the
are.
New Testament, yeah.
Yes. Well, if you want to know which New Testament author quoted which Old Testament book, you actually have to use the 28th edition of the Greek New Testament from Münster, the Aland edition.
Oh yeah.
And there's a list at the end, quite a thick list, you know, a large list with all the quotations and citations. And there's many examples. You know, Matthew quotes a lot of times Isaiah. That's probably his favorite. It's the bestseller from the first century, right? Isaiah is the volume. But and if you look at, but all the books are quoted. And I was again with that student a couple of years ago. I was interested in seeing which text is quoted, and we worked on a quotation of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 40 has this quotation. I have to now look in my Bible. I have to take off my
You mean
glasses.
this one, Dr. Detroit?
Which one? It's chapter 40, verse 7 and 8. It's
oh, sorry.
All people are grass. What is it again? All people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades. When the breath of the Lord blows upon it, surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of the Lord will stand forever. It's a quote of about 2 verses in the book of Isaiah. Now, when I look at that text, I see the text coming. That text is quoted in First Hebrews, in the book, in the first letter to Peter, First Peter, chapter 1, 24, 25. However, very strange. The text that is quoted in 1 Peter is the short version of the text, not the long version. That means that when the author of First Peter was writing his text, the long version as we now have it in the Hebrew Bible, he did not quote that one. He quoted the version as was present in the first Isaiah scroll of Qumran. And the same text was also used in by Theodotion, which is an early Jewish reviser, and he also has the short text. So you have to be always careful. Texts are quoted, but you have to then see who quotes which text. It's not as easy. Yes, this is the Novum Testamentum Graike number 28, edition 28.
Yeah.
That's where you can find the quote, but it doesn't say in the end which version is quoted. So 90% of the times it's the Old Greek text, the Septuagint, that is quoted.
Yeah.
But on occasions it's not the Old Greek, and you have to be careful there.
Yes, which is something you point out in this book chapter, by the way.
Yes.
I have heard rumors that the NA29 is coming. uh,
It is coming,
uh,
but I think it will be an online edition, if I'm not mistaken.
oh,
And
really?
yes,
Okay.
they've been
Okay.
working on the new version, I think already for 10, 15 years. If I'm not mistaken, the newest version will be a online version, which will be fantastic with a big
Oh,
apparatus. It will
yes.
be a
Yes.
fantastic version. Yes.
Dr. Detroyer, this is more of a, what do you call it? A sidebar question, maybe a personal question, but regarding the Septuagint, of what we can call the Septuagint. But do you think it's possible within the human effort to find the originals, or it's something that is beyond any scholarly intent with the
Do you
texts?
you have to be careful. I mean, your question can be interpreted in different ways. Do you
Oh,
want? I mean, if you're asking me, was there once one Greek text, original Greek text for all the
mm-hmm.
books? Yes, I do believe that there was an
Okay.
original Greek text, and that we can reconstruct. Yes, that I can do.
Oh,
All right.
okay, okay, okay,
Do,
okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, thank you.
but
So
but
you
if
guys, as you can see,
but
go ahead.
if your question is there an original of the Hebrew Bible? That's more difficult to answer.
Yeah. Um. Well, I've been reading Emmanuel Tobbs, and he argues that there is multiple originals. So what would you
Yeah.
what would you say? Is that something that we can? It's a plausible argument there, or it's more complicated than that?
I think Emmanuel. I mean, if I'm he always wants to say that there is one official edition, the edition from
Okay.
Jerusalem, which was somewhere, and so we do believe, but there were multiple versions at the same time. This is a debate
Hmm.
between Emmanuel Tove on the one hand and Jean Eugene Ulrich on the other hand.
Eugene Ulrich. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a great guy. So both of them, I love them.
I know.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's the question for them is, can you line up all these editions and then go back
Hmm.
to an older text, or do you
Yes.
start from multiplicity and then you know end up with some major text? I still hope that we can still come up. I hope that we
Yeah.
can have a one text. It would make my life easier, but I
I
hope
agree with
so.
that. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but we have to acknowledge that there are, in the first century BCE, there were multiple versions of Samuel, multiple versions of Joshua, multiple of Jeremiah, probably of Ezekiel. So, you know, they are not dramatically different. That could be that the
Yes.
sequence of the chapters is
Yeah.
different, but there are differences. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The famous nowadays, as you can better attest to this because you are the scholar. But as you know, there is this big debate about this famous passage from Deuteronomy 32, 8 and 9 and
Yeah.
43, I think, because when you compare the old Greek using your word here, your wording, and Qumran and the Masoretic text and everything, and Pentateuch, Samaritan, I think it is, or
Mm-hmm.
Samaritan Pentateuch. And when you compare, there are differences in
Mm-hmm.
readings. It's something very, I mean, even in our translations, I got my Bible and I go to the footnotes. Hey, the older manuscript or Septuagint and Qumran, there are different readings in this text.
Yeah.
And they really, those differences really matter, Dr. Detroyer. Let me tell you that.
They matter,
Yeah.
but we shouldn't be worried about differences.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's one thing that we should learn to understand. If
Yeah.
people say, "Oh my God, it's a different biblical text," no, no, no. It shows
Yeah.
that these texts were so important for people that on occasion there were, differences put in. So
Yes.
it's actually positive that we have differences. And so, yes, of course, some of them are theologically, not easy, but yeah, that's, do we allow for God to have sons like in
Oh yeah.
Deuteronomy or
Oh
not?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, I
but
in my personal I don't know how to call it, maybe a faith journey. But I always say when I have the opportunity to talk about this with friends and well, hanging out with people at church and everything, we need to be very careful not imposing our modern sensibilities on these ancient texts, right?
Precisely.
Because there is different text traditions in the past, in the first century, and maybe prior to that. Also, you mentioned Eugene Ulrich. I contacted him, and he responded, but he's not able to come into the show for personal reasons.
Yeah.
But it would be great to have this guy. I mean,
he's amazing. I
awesome.
mean, but both of them, Emmanuel and Jean, or they are not as young as we wish them to.
Yeah.
Be. So
I wish we could go back in time. Yeah. I wish we could go back to the 90s and 80s so we can talk to them.
yes.
So that's why I'm glad you are here.
I'm not that old yet, huh?
No. But you're here, which is important. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, now moving on here on the overview of your book chapter. There is various sections in this book chapter. For example, we got to talk about terminology, which is a section. What in broad strokes, what you can tell us about this section, Dr. Detroyer?
The Septuagint is actually a concept that we use, and it refers to the 72 translators that, according to the probably little bit fictional letter of Aristeas, and in the letter of Aristeas it is said that the librarian talks to his king in Egypt, in Alexandria, and says,
yes,
we're collecting all the law collections from the ancient Near East. We should actually also get the Torah from the Jewish population. And the king says, good idea. So there's a delegation sent to Jerusalem. And in Jerusalem, they ask for a good copy. So they receive a very good copy of the law, the Pentateuch, what we call the first 5 books. And then they also get 6 times 12 translators to come to Alexandria to start translating. That's, of course, a little bit of a myth. You have to package the deal, right? So you have to make clear to the people, this was a very good copy of the book, and we got the best translators, so the result is really good. So they did their social media very well, and they made clear that it was a very good text. And so this text was then, but I call that text the Old Greek text. So I call that the Old Greek. I will not, you could call it the Septuagint because, that's the 72. But when we speak about Septuagint, it's most of the time a book, a very thick book with all the versions in. And then you have to be careful because we don't have, of every single biblical book, we don't have the Old Greek text. We have, for instance, in sections in Samuel and Kings, we have not the Old Greek, but a recension, which we call with a difficult name, the Kaige recension. So there we don't have an Old Greek text. It's not as easy, and similarly for Isaiah, we sometimes have a text which is actually not the Old Greek, but a little bit revised. So you have to always read the small print at the beginning of the chapter to see, do I have the Old Greek or do I have a revision of the Greek? So it's not always easy to differentiate what is Old Greek, what is a recension, which means a reworked thing, and what is then an even later hexapolaric recension, from the 3rd century, 4th century.
Thank you for that. Now, you also, among those sections, you have a section which is called rewriting. Question mark. What do you mean by that?
Well, could you repeat that one more time? Which section was it again?
You have a section in your book chapter which is called rewriting, which is showing up on your screen. So what do you mean by that, rewriting, in this section?
Rewriting is, what I just said, for instance, for the book of Esther, where we
Ok. Perdimos a la doctora Detroyer. Vamos a esperar que ella regrese. Bueno, para los que están escuchándome ahorita de forma diferida o ahorita en este momento, Estamos hablando acerca de la Septuaginta, la importancia de la misma en la transmisión de las Escrituras judías, ¿verdad? Tenemos en entrevista a la doctora Kristin, ¿verdad? Ahorita la perdimos. Tenemos un fallo aquí técnico. Probablemente se cortó la señal. Vamos a esperar que ella regrese. Mientras tanto, ahorita, pues, gracias por estar aquí. La importancia de la Septuaginta simplemente no se puede minimizar. Hay mucha plática en las redes sociales, ¿verdad? Conversaciones, diría yo, a veces muy poco informadas, ¿verdad? Entonces, pero aquí la doctora Destroyer es una experta en lo que es la Septuaginta, la transmisión de las copias en griego y toda esta cuestión. Y básicamente ahorita lo que hemos estado discutiendo es la terminología, ¿verdad? Hay que tener mucho cuidado que los términos que estamos utilizando para hablar acerca de esta traducción al idioma griego koiné, ¿verdad? Se asume que son 70, ¿verdad? Y por eso la cuestión de la Septuaginta, pero ella personalmente utiliza la frase griego antiguo, ¿verdad? Porque al utilizar Septuaginta, se deja entrever con ese fraseo de que hubo una sola unidad literaria en griego. Y entonces ese es un problema porque no es así. Así que vamos a esperar que venga la doctora Destroyer, ¿verdad? Todavía vamos a esperar que ella aparezca. Y cuando ya esté de nuevo, vamos a continuar con la conversación, ¿verdad? Otro comentario que me gustaría decir es básicamente que la verdad que la Septuaginta, al ser comparada con el texto masorético, ¿verdad? El Pentateuco samaritano con Ram, hay diferencias. Lo que la doctora Destroyer también nos dice es que hay que tener cuidado, o sea, para nosotros puede ser un problema, ¿verdad? Que tal vez hayan variantes en las lecturas, pero para las personas del primer siglo y antes no presentaba un problema como tal, ¿verdad? Sí hay muy probablemente diferencias que tienen un impacto teológico, ¿verdad? Como el famoso Deuteronomio 32:8, que ya todos lo conocemos, pero de forma general las variantes no representan gran cosa, ¿verdad? Y la cuestión de la presencia de estas variantes en el texto simplemente refleja lo que hablábamos, ¿verdad? Lo que hemos venido hablando acerca de la inspiración es lo complejo de la transmisión del texto. Entonces, creo que la relevancia de la Septuaginta no ha muerto, al contrario, sigue más vigente que nunca. Es muy importante cómo las técnicas, por ejemplo, que emplearon estas personas al momento de hacer la traducción, ¿verdad? Incluso después con las copias, es interesante cómo movidos, ¿verdad? Por algún impulso teológico, muchos escribas procedieron a hacer agregar o tal vez reescribir, ¿verdad? La doctora Destroyer ahorita estaba poniendo el ejemplo del libro de Esther. El libro de Esther creo que es el único libro que no se encontró en Qumran. Y dice ella que en el libro de Esther, como todos sabemos de forma general, no aparece ni el nombre de Dios, ¿verdad? Ni Dios en sí, como personaje. No aparece en ninguna parte del libro. Pero dice ella que en las copias que nos han llegado del libro de Esther, en griego antiguo, ¿verdad? Se puede ver que el redactor, el copista, el escriba, motivado, ¿verdad? Por esta ausencia del nombre de Dios o de Dios como personaje, como carácter, ¿verdad? Lo incluyó prácticamente en el texto, ¿verdad? Lo agregó, ¿verdad? Para hacerlo parte de la narrativa en el libro de Esther. Déjenme solamente, voy a chequear el correo. Tal vez la doctora Destroyer me mandó algún mensaje por acá. No he recibido nada. Esperemos entonces que ella pueda volver a unirse aquí a la entrevista. Vamos a estar esperando. ¿verdad? Esperemos que no haya sido que se haya quedado sin internet, porque ahí sí ya es problema, o que se haya ido la energía, por decirlo así. Entonces, nada, estas entrevistas con los académicos, la verdad que a nosotros los laicos, incluso los que somos divulgadores de la erudición bíblica, la verdad que nos acerca un poquito más a las complejidades, el estado de la cuestión, ¿verdad? Sobre estos temas, ya sea del Antiguo Testamento, la Biblia hebrea, ya sea de la literatura del Segundo Templo, ya sea del Nuevo Testamento, ¿verdad? Ya sea de todo lo que tenga que ver con la Biblia, ¿verdad? Dentro de los círculos académicos, el dialogar con ellos de primera mano nos acerca un poquito más para entender cómo es el discurso, ¿verdad? Las múltiples áreas, las diferentes aristas, ¿verdad? Ángulos de donde se puede hablar acerca de la Biblia de forma académica y que muchas veces, a mí me ha pasado, muchas veces resulta, ¿cómo se llama? Complejo, ¿verdad? Hay muchas cosas que abordar. La verdad que a mí en lo personal lo que me deja es un aire como de, la verdad que no sé nada, ¿verdad? Lo único que sé es que no sé nada, como dijo, no sé si fue Aristóteles o Sócrates. Pero la verdad que si no somos personas académicas, lo mínimo que podemos hacer es, ¿cómo se llama? Tratar de leer la literatura en la medida de lo posible. Muchas veces eso no es fácil. De hecho, la mayor parte del tiempo no es fácil porque hay demasiada literatura, hay muchos artículos, hay monografías, libros, disertaciones, qué sé yo, ¿verdad? Entonces, es humanamente casi imposible. De hecho, ¿verdad? Me atrevería a decir que es humanamente imposible leernos toda esa literatura. Leer e informarse es un trabajo, es una tarea, y no todo el mundo quiere hacer eso, ¿verdad? Y muchos nos presentamos en nuestros canales como que somos académicos y en realidad no lo somos, ¿verdad? O pretendemos serlo. De mi parte, yo siempre lo he dicho, nunca ese es el objetivo de mi canal. El objetivo es traer aquí a los académicos de primera mano y escuchar de ellos, ¿verdad? De su propia boca, lo que nos tengan que decir en los diferentes campos en los que ellos se especializan, ¿verdad? Pero muchos de nosotros somos personas que tratamos de estar informados, somos laicos informados, ¿verdad? Personas, como dice el doctor Collins, personas educadas, aunque no especializadas, ¿verdad? Pero una vez que metemos nuestra mente en esta literatura, en este mundo, la verdad que tenemos dos opciones, ¿verdad? O seguir creyendo falsas cosas sobre X tema de la religión y de la Biblia en su totalidad, o realmente reevaluar nuestras posiciones y tomar en cuenta la evidencia, ¿verdad? Que está siendo puesta ahí a disposición de todo aquel que esté interesado por medio de los académicos y su literatura. Bueno, vamos a darle a la doctora Detroyer unos 10 minutos más, ¿verdad? De nuevo, esta es una entrevista con la doctora Kristin Detroyer. Estábamos en la entrevista normal y perdimos la señal. Sospechamos que pudo haber sido su internet, la conexión con internet, o, ¿verdad? Algún problema de energía. Así que vamos a darle unos 10 minutos más para que ella se pueda volver a unir. Si no, vamos a tener que reagendar la entrevista, ¿verdad? Vamos a tener que reagendar la entrevista porque la verdad que estábamos disfrutando la conversación con la doctora Detroyer. Es una pena que haya sucedido esto, pero estas son parte de los gajes del oficio, ¿verdad? A veces se dan este tipo de cosas y nada, toca reprogramar muchas veces o a ver. Entonces, no he recibido correo de parte de ella, muy probablemente por eso, porque se quedó sin energía. Quiero creer que fue eso. Y entonces vamos a seguir esperando 10 minutos más. Si no, pues vamos a cerrar el en vivo y vamos a tener que reprogramar la entrevista con la doctora Kristin Detroyer, que estábamos hablando acerca de el libro, que por cierto quiero mostrárselos ahorita aquí, ¿verdad? A los que estén ahorita aquí, a los que vayan a ver este video, ¿verdad? Estábamos hablando acerca del capítulo que escribió ella en este libro, que se los voy a poner aquí para los que no lo conozcan, ¿verdad? Este libro acaba de salir, es recién salido, y la doctora Destroyer escribió el capítulo que tiene que ver con la Septuaginta y la transmisión de las Escrituras judías. Entonces, no sé si lo pueden ver aquí, me dicen, para que lo puedan comprar, ¿verdad? Este es el libro, Behind the Scenes of the New Testament, ¿verdad? Contextos históricos, sociales y culturales, ¿verdad? Este es del Nuevo Testamento. Ya salió, creo que salió también el del Antiguo Testamento. Déjenme, se lo pongo aquí. Behind the scenes of the Old Testament, que es la contraparte of the Old Testament. Este es. Entonces, son dos libros. Este salió en el 2018 y el otro salió ahorita en este año, ¿verdad? Muy, muy buena literatura. Aquí está John W. Hilbert, a quien lo tuve invitado hace un par de semanas, ¿verdad? Entonces, este es del Antiguo Testamento, ¿verdad? Editado por Jonathan Greer, John Hilbert y el famoso John Walton, que por cierto, el doctor Walton va a estar aquí en el podcast el 9 de agosto para hablar acerca de su libro más reciente, nuevos insights, creo que es sobre el libro de Génesis, ¿verdad? Es su libro más reciente. Entonces, para que lo tengan ahí presente, ¿verdad? Está ese, el del Antiguo Testamento, y está este. Salió en el 2024, ¿verdad? Publicado el 5 de noviembre del 2024. Es reciente. Reciente. Entonces, la doctora Destroyer escribió de hecho creo que podemos ver aquí, leer un poco el extracto, ¿verdad? Y a ella le tocó hablar sobre la Septuaginta, porque es parte de su especialidad. Déjenme ver si la doctora ya volvió. No ha vuelto. Entonces, vamos a seguir esperando, ¿verdad? Y tengo que verlo aquí, tengo que recorrerlo, bajarlo un poquito más. Aunque no sé si se va a ver bien, creo que no. Pero ahí ustedes pueden ir a revisarlo, ¿verdad? Y ahí está el capítulo de la doctora Kristin Destroyer. Creo que me lo salté. Porque no me... Aquí está. Symbolic. Vamos a ver. Sí, aquí está, ¿eh? Destroyer, este de aquí, escrito, ¿eh? El número 13. La Septuaginta, la transmisión de las Escrituras judías. Bueno, ya solo quedan 7 minutos. Seguimos esperando. La doctora Destroyer todavía no aparece. Entonces vamos a tener que seguir esperando. La verdad que lamento que se haya truncado la entrevista de esta forma. Son cosas que no se esperan, ¿verdad? Simplemente no se puede, ¿cómo se llama? Son cosas inesperadas. ¿Qué se le va a hacer? No tenemos control sobre estas cosas, es lo que quiero decir, ¿verdad? Entonces, vamos a ver. Vamos a seguir esperando 7 minutos, ¿verdad? De hecho, sí, 7 minutos. Vamos a darle hasta las 11 de la mañana aquí, hora de Honduras, a la doctora Destroyer. Ahí está, ya volvió la doctora. Aquí está. Excelente.
I'm so sorry. For some reason, my computer decided to have a major overhaul. I'm so sorry, please.
No worries, Dr. Destroyer. I was just explaining my Spanish-speaking audience just to, hang in there. She will be returning. Just wait, and here we are.
I'm sorry.
No worries. That's okay. So where do we left? Okay, we were talking about rewriting Esther. So you can pick it back from there.
Yes. So if you every time I use the word rewriting, what I want to say is that when people were transmitting biblical text, they had the habit of adapting it slightly to a new context, and that is something positive. So it's not rewriting for a bad reason. It's to make the Bible apply to their own life and their own context.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, rewriting is always part of the transmission of the Hebrew Bible. It's actually,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just for the past years, I've been working on an old section of a papyrus, which is a
Okay.
small piece of probably 4th century piece of paper, papyrus, and it's a piece of Exodus. And the strange thing is that when you look at Exodus, this is actually a piece of the Decalogue, the
Mm-hmm.
10 Commandments. And there's only 3 biblical texts from about the 4th century or older that exist. And the 4th century main text that we have for the Decalogue, the 10 Commandments of Exodus, is Codex Vaticanus, which is the major codex, which is, what we have. So, and then there's one very small piece in Oxyrhynchus, which is an area in Egypt. My computer comes constantly saying that something is wrong, but that's okay. So, and that section is about the size of my finger. And then there's a leaf, and the leaf is about this size. It's not big, but it's the oldest witness. And what do I see in this Exodus text? When it comes to the commandments, I see on occasion elements from Deuteronomy 5, where we have the other Decalogue.
Okay.
Because the Decalogue comes in 2 versions, one in Exodus 20, one in Deuteronomy 5. And I see that the one from Deuteronomy 5 has already influenced the text of Exodus 20. So that is how people were working with the text. They knew the text and they say, okay, what are we going to say? Which sequence are we going to say? Do not desire the house, your neighbor's house. Do not desire your neighbor's wife. Do not desire your neighbor's slave, female slave, etc. Do we put the wife on the second place, or do we put the wife on the first place? In Deuteronomy, the wife is first. Do not covet the wife of your neighbor, right? But Exodus says, do not desire the house of your neighbor. So for Exodus, the house is actually more important than the woman, right? The woman is second place, the house is first. But the author who was writing the Decalogue text in Oxyrhynchus in the 4th century probably thought, don't like the sequence, and he puts again the wife first. So is that bad? No, it's just how they saw the text and how the text is living. So that's what I call rewriting.
Thank you. There are a lot of images here on the Oxyrhynchus. You can tell me if the one you just mentioned has to do with the Exodus, right?
Yeah, but mine was just published a couple months ago. I'm not sure whether you will have it already. This is quite.
I didn't know that. That's very important.
This is just published actually a couple months ago. So yes, I worked on it for 10 years with a group of students and some colleagues. But well, it's an important text, right? We don't have an Exodus text from Exodus chapter 20 in Qumran. So we don't have, we have one line in the reworked Pentateuch which mentions one section. That's it, right? We have texts from Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is also a bestseller. The book of Isaiah was a bestseller. The book of Deuteronomy was a bestseller. But from Exodus, we don't have that much. So if you say, what are the oldest witnesses for the 10 Commandments in Exodus? Well, not that many. And I have edited one of them.
Yes. It's a milestone part, Dr. Detroyers. It's amazing how you guys spend a lot of years of your life just working on this text. It's amazing how it's incredible. I mean, it's mind blowing. I wish maybe in my following life, in my next life, I will be.
You better start now. You better start now. But
it's never too late.
Honest, I have also a series of questions. I always joke to my students because
really,
there are questions that I want to ask translators, right? For instance, when I go to heaven, when I'm in heaven, and I knock on St. Peter's door I will say to Saint Peter, Saint Peter, you have to let me in because I have to ask the translator of Genesis why he used the word paradise when talking about the garden, right? For us,
Yes.
it's a paradise. What? No, it wasn't supposed to be a paradise. It was supposed to be the Garden of Eden, right? But the translator of Genesis was brilliant. He used the
Okay.
word paradise. And by doing so, we have in the Bible a link between the beginning, our beginning in paradise, and the end of our life, when we hope that we will go back to paradise, right? In paradise.
Oh yeah.
Right? But that is a theological connection. So I would
This is
like to
getting good.
so when I go to heaven, I would like to knock on the shoulders of the translator and say, tell me, when did you have that good idea of calling that and saying it's a paradise? So yeah, of course,
You know, Dr. Detroyer, my father, he used to joke about Adam and Eve, and he will go and say, when I get to heaven, I will ask Adam, hey, buddy, why do you leave your wife alone with the serpent? Not
yeah,
good idea. Not
yeah,
good idea.
precisely. Okay, so when I'm in heaven, I'll talk to your dad and we'll go together to the
Yes,
translators. It's good.
his
Yeah.
name is Angel. No pun intended.
Angel. Sí, estaba de la ciudad de la reina de Los Ángeles, eh? So,
Yeah, la ciudad de Los
yeah,
Ángeles. Oh, hey, your Spanish is pretty good. Let me tell you
it's
that.
okay. It's okay.
It's pretty good. Now, Dr. Detroyer, translation technique. Why should
Yes.
we know about this in relation to the Septuagint or the
Well,
Old Greek?
again, the question is, how do we get to the Old Greek, right? And we always
Yes.
hope when we get to the Old Greek, then we will get to the Old Hebrew, right? That's our goal.
Hmm.
We always want to see the Old text, and we think that if we can, if we can look at the translation and say, oh, this is not the Old Greek, but this is typical of the translator, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that the translator was always using, then we have to put it on the credit of the translator and not of the credit of the Old
Yes.
Greek. So in order to figure out what the Old Greek is, which might lead us to the Old Hebrew, we have to, with a bad word, we have to strip the translator of his own little things that he put in. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm going to, it's like, if I have a colleague from Mexico, right, I will have to, I have to refer all the references to the Cinco de Mayo. They are not Spanish, they are really Mexican, so I have to get rid of them. So you have to get rid of the typical things of the translator in order to get to the older layer, and that is what we do. And that's why we do translation technique. It's
Thank you.
it's it's what we do for a living, trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of more of, or what do you call it, more importance when it comes to ancient languages. I mean, can we say, Dr. Detroyer, that all biblical scholars are languages geeks by nature?
Yeah, we have that. But I have to be honest. I'm so proud of my boy. Mi hijo. I always call him Mijo, and he's like, Mama, please, yes. But because he's also in languages, and I was just reading something because he had to hand in for the university. He's in college, so he had to hand in a
Okay.
text. And so I said to him, let me read the text at least. And he says, Mom, it's my work. I'm independent. Yes, I know my son is independent, right? And so, but I just wanted to read what he had written. And so he sent
Yes,
me his
yes.
piece, he sent me his material. And I was so proud. And so I wrote back, I said, David. So I said, your English is so good, so good. And I could see him because that is a thing that we do. We are in languages. We think, and I think Spanish people have much more possibilities. I mean, Americans are monoglots, right? They only know English and that's it, right? And all
Yeah.
of us, the rest of the world has to do a lot of languages. I'm from Belgium,
Oh, yeah.
right? So aside from the Romans, they didn't conquer us. We were too barbarian. But aside from them, every possible emperor has gone over our country, whether it's the French or the Dutch or the German, or right? So we have to adapt to every possible language, and that's why it's helpful.
We have.
So yeah, and we are
Yeah.
language geeks. Yes, we are. Yes.
I'm a
We are.
language is the geek. Yeah. Like just solving the riddle with the language, ancient languages. I love that. I love that.
I love that
Dr.
too.
Detroyer. Now, moving on here, textual data of actual witnesses.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, for every textual witness, when you study a text, you have to know which materials are used, or what script is used, or are there do we have the whole text or only fragments, or
Mm-hmm.
did the author write on every line but skipped a couple lines because of the bad condition of the text? So you have to know the data. It's something that we have to keep in mind. If we say, the author of this Isaiah scroll did not have the text, we first have to look at the text in order to see, was the text there. And I always give the example in my classes. Why do we have so many law collections from Mesopotamia and so few from Egypt? Well, it's
Hmm.
logical, right? Because in Egypt
Yes.
they used rock and papyrus. Now, rock can be destroyed, right? Papyrus can be gone. But in Mesopotamia, they put everything on clay. And the best way to preserve clay tablets was when they were burned. So if a city was destroyed and they burned
Okay.
the city, it kept the whole archive. So nothing
They
got
did.
destroyed in Mesopotamia. So materiality, the kind of material that was used, defines what we have. And that's why we have to study the materiality of things, because it influences what we have.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
It's I have to remind you of something that is for South America very important. Remember
Okay.
the quipus in the Andes, the handing over of the tradition using quipus, where the woman would make knots in these long textiles. And
Mm-hmm.
that's actually a way of preserving what they had learned from their eltern. And my colleague from St. Andrews, Sabine Highlands, deciphered
Okay.
how the quipus work. And so that is, depending on the material, we can see something or not. You should actually invite her. She has nothing to do with Bible, but it is a preservation of a whole system of handing
Hmm.
down a tradition. Quipus, Incas.
Okay. You need
Yes.
to provide me that name also to keep it on my
Yes, sir.
agenda here. Definitely. Okay, moving on. Dr. Detroit, I want to respect your time. You let me know if we got a couple of minutes more. Just give me the sign there, okay? In any
Yeah, yeah.
case. Okay. So now, in terms of early Jewish revisers,
Yes.
give us like the main takeaways from this section.
Yes. So as soon
I
as
know
there
it's
was a
difficult to you, but
no,
but
it's not.
scholars.
It's becoming easier. So
Okay, thank you.
as there was a translation, a Greek translation, right?
Okay, okay.
Some of the Jewish members of the community were not happy with the quality of the translation. And
Okay.
the first one was a guy that we called Kaige. It's a difficult name, but this first
Mm-hmm.
person said we need to bring that Greek translation a little bit closer to the Hebrew original. And so they
Hmm.
started working on, putting their variants in. So they said, no, don't use this word, use that word. So bring
Mm-hmm.
it a little bit closer to the Hebrew. And that is a tradition that started already before Christ. So probably in the 1st century BCE, we see the first revisers, Kaige,
Okay.
and then Mr. Theodosian, he was an early reviser.
Yeah.
Difficulty is that he is actually living in the 1st century or 2nd century CE, but his
Okay.
work has already been done before. So there is a group of revisers that started working, and we see the traces of these revision in earlier documents. For instance, when in Nahal Hever is a cave in which a lot of texts were found from the minor
Mm-hmm.
prophets. And the Nahal Hever scroll contains
Oh,
not
yeah.
all Greek text,
I have a
but
picture of it. Yeah.
okay, it's one of my favorite manuscripts. I'll put my glasses.
Yeah,
So
I know. I'm
it's a
gonna show it
beautiful
on the screen.
text. So if you find it, it's I can recognize it from 1,000 because they just found another section of the text, and as soon as I saw it, I know like, oh, that's the Hal Hever. It's very clear that's the Hal Hever.
Let me put it right here. Yeah. You can keep talking about that as I show the picture here.
So the Nahal Hever scroll is a typical scroll where the Old Greek has been adapted to the Hebrew as it was common in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it is typical for the whole process of revising and translation and correcting translations, and so that happened, and then it culminated in the work of Mr. Origen, who decided to collect all the variants. And with Origen, we're in the middle of Christianity, and he decided, I'm going to collect all the variants of all these early Jewish revisers, and maybe then I will have enough to understand the dialogue between the Christians and the Jews, because they were arguing, right? And the best thing to argue is when you oh yes, that's my
oh yeah. I told you I got some pictures of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, these revisers were active, and if you have a text that is being revised, then you have another text. And so if you're talking about a text and you say, well, in Isaiah verse this and this, chapter this, verse that, it says that. Oh, you see there, beautiful, in the middle of the screen, you have the name of God in Paleo-Hebrew script. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So these early revisers wanted to give something special. They didn't want to put the name of God on in simple Greek words, but they decided that they would put the name of God in Paleo-Hebrew. You have it actually in the second line from the top a bit to the right, and then on line 1, 2, 3, 4, right in the middle, Hotito Adonai. So it is amazing.
Adonai,
yeah. So you have there in Paleo-Hebrew. So everyone would know when we see Paleo-Hebrew writing, that's the name of God, and we should not pronounce the name of God. That's the Jewish tradition.
Yes,
so
yes. Dr. Detroyer, do you think they did this about the name of God and everything? They did it out of reverence?
Yes,
do you think
out of respect. Okay. Out of respect for the name, for God. You should not use the name of God in vain or lightly. We should not do that. It's God, so we cannot use the name. Yeah, precisely.
I agree.
And okay, beautiful text. Oh, beautiful. I love it.
This is getting good. Oh my goodness. I'm
and you can see on the last line Israel. You see that there, Israel. So on the
Israel, you mean okay? Let me point it out here with a pointer. You mean this one?
Yes, that
here?
One. Israel. You see the Jota, the Sigma, the Rho, the A, the E, and the L. Yes, precisely.
The L, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I passed my Greek. My Greek time. No. I took a course on Hebrew, but not Greek. So yes, I'm putting myself right there. Okay, Dr. Detroyer. Actually, when I have a Jewish scholars, I try to keep the tradition, not uttering the divine name. I go with Adonai or Hashem.
Adonai. Yeah.
Or Hashem.
Me too.
Actually. Go ahead.
So I always try to be respectful to whatever.
Yes.
We have to learn that because otherwise people can get upset about their traditions. So we have to understand that everyone has a tradition of scripture and of faith, and we just have to be a bit more respectful towards each other. Yes.
No, I agree. Actually, next I think next week, Professor Lawrence Schiffman, he's coming on the show to talk about.
Right. Oh, he's a great guy. You'll have fun. You'll have fun. Give him my greetings. Give Larry my greetings.
I will.
Yes.
I will. Please. Yes. Actually, I'm going to put it right here in my notes. Detroyer here.
That's beautiful.
Because a lot of things going on my head, and I want to make sure I can give those greetings on behalf of Dr. Detroyer.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. This is getting good. Now it comes to Origin and his, how do you pronounce it? Hexapla?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Origin was a church father who was in, this is a time when there is dialogues between Jews and Christians, right?
Yes.
And he realizes that he's a philologist, and he realizes that in order to talk to his friends, he has to have all the data available. And so he's gathering all the material, all the texts that textual witnesses, and so he's trying to put them in the survey. And so he's collecting all the texts. He says, okay, what's my Hebrew text? And then he adds a column, because hexapla means 6 columns, right?
Okay.
Hexapla. So it is hexapla means it's a work, a book produced. Yes, you can see the first picture is great, the second picture is great. That is how it looked like. We don't have much material left over, but this is how we think it was. It existed. And the first column is a Hebrew text. The second one is a transliteration. In order to pronounce it correctly, he or somebody else had the Hebrew text written in Greek characters so that he could pronounce it. And then in the third column, he had the version of Aquila, who is an early Jewish reviser. And then was the column of Symmachus, another early Jewish reviser.
Symmachus, okay.
In the fifth column, he produced his own text, the Old Greek. And then in the sixth column, he had the column of Theodotion. And those are the 6 columns. So he was trying to collect all the evidence. Now, curiously enough, this is the most important work for Christianity. However, we don't have much proof of its existence. You have to imagine this must have been, a Bible. If you take the Hebrew Bible in itself, it's already 1,000 pages, right? And so if you now put 1,000 pages with 6 columns, that means that you have a work of 6, 7, 8,000 pages. So how on earth are you going to produce that? So the hexapla was a seldom work, a very rare work, and we only have a couple witnesses to it. For instance, in the Geniza collection. What is the Geniza? The Geniza is a place in a synagogue in which you put all the texts that you can no longer use. So every synagogue, you don't, if a scroll or a book is which contains the name of God is getting old and you can't use it anymore, you don't throw it in the trash, right? You don't throw it out, you put it in a Geniza, in a little treasure room where you keep your old documents. And in the treasure room of the Geniza room of the synagogue of Cairo, and the synagogue of Cairo most likely started already in the 7th, 8th century, and they had this treasure room. And since the beginning of this synagogue in Cairo, they used to throw all the documents with the name of God, or in that little room. And in that little room, which was quite high up, so they had to throw it through an opening high in the synagogue, and then it, fell down. And when in 1898, a scholar from Cambridge, Salomon Schechter, he discovered this room. Actually, he didn't, but 2 Scottish ladies were before him. They discovered it. They told him. He went in, and what he found in that collection was amazing. He was like shoulder high, standing in manuscripts, because all the people of the Jewish community had been tossing their important documents in that Geniza. So we have there almost 11, 12 centuries of documents, deeds, Bibles, even a Quran, property instructions, marriage documents, divorce documents, mercantile documents. They just would throw it in the Geniza. And one of these little things that were found were 2 pages where we clearly see the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth column of the hexapla. So we have a couple witnesses in the Geniza from that hexapla from origin. And the hexapla from origin, also there was another document found, it's actually a beautiful document. There was Cardinal Mercati, 19th century. He was the director of the Vatican Library. And he had a codex, and it was clear that the codex had been reused. They were ecological. They used an old document and they reused it. And the upper layer is quite modern, it's medieval, right? But the bottom layer is a very old layer of the Psalms in this hexapla form. So we have witnesses to the hexapla. Now, why was the hexapla so important? Every scholar from 4th century onwards, 3rd century onwards, tried to use it. So a lot of the manuscripts that came afterward were influenced by this work. And that is, the work of Origen was amazing. He gave us the tools with which to communicate with our colleagues, our older brothers, the Jews, to debate things. Don't forget, we are, as Christians, we are the little sister of our old sister Judaism.
Yes,
so,
yes.
You have to keep that in mind.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Dr. Detroyer, do you think it's accurate to say that Origen was the first text critic? Or at least he could be counted among the first.
Yes, the first text critic of the Bible. Don't forget that for works like Homer, there were already a lot of scholars.
The classics.
We have, for Homer, we have editions with variants already. So it's again, we think, because we have so much information about our own tradition, we always think we're the first.
Yeah, we're the first.
We
hit the moon first.
Origen was the first to do the Bible in that kind of way.
Yeah.
But he wasn't the first to do comparative analysis with different versions of a text. That was something that was done beforehand also. Yeah.
Maybe my impulse say it because I'm super biased, because I'm a Christian. But we need to remind about Homer and these people, the classics. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We're doing great, Dr. Detroyer. Now we hit Lucian. How do you say it? Lucian. Okay, yes. Lucian. So, in the second one is a little bit difficult for me. Lucianic.
Yeah, Lucian. So again, Lucian is actually the second text critic, if I can put it that way. So he came about 150 years later than Origen. We're now in the middle of the 4th century, right? Towards the end. And we see that Lucian does the same thing. He is trying to make his text better. But Lucian does two things. So whereas Origen is trying to collect all the variants, right? Lucian also tries to make his text more readable. And he made his Greek text, he corrected it so that people could understand it better. He was thinking about people who were listening to the text, right? And it's like, when you're sitting in church and you listen to the person reading the story, the biblical text, right? And then you think, oh, wait a second, who was the subject of this verb? You can't, because, you're not always maybe thinking, right? And Lucian made sure that he put in every time when it was a bit too long, he would say, and King Solomon did this, and he did that, and he did that. And then he says, and King Solomon did that. So he makes it more clear so that for a reader or for a person who is listening, it's still clear what it's about. So Lucian corrected the text towards the Hebrew using a lot of the information from Origen, but he also revised it to make it more clear for the people who were listening to the text. That's Lucian. So yeah.
Okay. Hi, Lucian. I'm going to text you WhatsApp. These people is long time dead. But we should know more about these guys. I mean, we laymen, we don't even mention these people, but they're very important in the transmission and recensions about this text.
Yeah.
So we're getting to the conclusion here. Dr. Detroyer, again, thank you for your time. We're
Pleasure.
having fun. I hope you are also having fun here.
I
So
had fun.
in terms okay, in terms of recensions, textual history, and the Dead Sea Scrolls, what can you tell us about that?
That is where more research is needed. So
Okay, that's good.
we need to put the people who are doing Qumran
Mm-hmm.
in the same room as the people who are doing Septuagint, like Jean Ulrich and like Emmanuel Tove, right?
Oh yes.
Those are people who combine the two, but we need more people who can combine it. And I'm still looking for a person who would be willing to look at, for instance, the corrections in the Isaiah scroll and compare them with the Greek tradition to see whether there is overlap. We know, for instance, from 4Q Samuel A, that means the book of Samuel, text version A, which was found in the cave 4 of Qumran.
Yes.
We know that text looks very much like the Lucianic text. So there's a Hebrew text, but it looks very much like the Lucianic text that we have in Greek. So we need to find out, how is it possible that texts that are ages apart from each other, right? First century BCE, Hebrew, and then it looks like a 4th century Greek text, same book. Yeah, but how can we explain these coincidences? So, and that's why the research on recensions and on Qumran are important. We wouldn't know anything about Kaige if we hadn't found in the Judean desert the Nahal Hefer scrolls. So that is the future.
It is the future, and with that, and with the arrival of the AI, we're gonna do a lot of things. Yeah. No, I was about to say, Dr. Detroyer. Oh, give me just a moment.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm not the only one who disappears.
Okay, you can hear me now, right? Okay. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Can you hear me now?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thank you. No, I was about to say that with the arrival of the AI, biblical scholars and Dead Sea scholars and everything, you are taking advantage of the AI as a new technology or technological, what do you call it, methodological approaches to this text. So I hope that can work in a positive way to advance the research you guys are doing. There's something I want to show you, Dr. Detroyer, very quick, because just a couple of days ago, I was talking about inspiration. I'm big on inspiration because I take it very seriously. I strongly believe in inspiration, but modern articulations on the doctrine of inspiration, really, there are some stuff that we need to stop and think about more about that. So I contacted, I don't know, maybe you know him, Dr. Matthew Richel. I don't know how to say it in French.
Yeah, Mathieu Richel, yes.
Mathieu Richel? Okay, there you go. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Please forgive me, Dr. Richel, because I'm butchering your last name here. So, he wrote this is part of a book chapter. And I was impressed by the questions and arguments in an exploratory kind of a way to talk about inspiration. And he mentions that 4Q Samuel fragment that you just brought up, he uses as a good example where something was added, but it's not in our traditional text.
Yeah.
So thank you for confirming that.
Yeah.
So know him, right?
Mathieu Richel, he's a Protestant. He's now currently in Louvain-la-Neuve in Belgium. I just finished with him. We had a dissertation defense in Paris, La Sorbonne. And he was also there. So we had a good time 2 weeks ago debating with a candidate who was just defending her dissertation. She was wonderful. So it was great.
Thank you. So we're doing good. Moving on. Thank you for that, Dr. Detroyer. So the Old Greek and its daughter versions. I was going to say in a British way, but no.
Yes. So there, so far we've been talking about Hebrew text, Qumran text, Hebrew text, and the Greek text. But the Greek text was also translated into many other languages. So the Greek text was translated into Latin. It was translated into Ethiopic, Armenian, Coptic, Syriac, all these
Armenian?
languages.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, and that means that if we look at those daughter versions, we call that the daughter versions, then we see actually a little bit of the mother in it. So we study Coptic and Armenian and Georgian and the old Georgian, right? So we study all the versions in order to see from which mother did they derive. So it's a bit of genealogy. So when you see you, right? When I look at you, you look a little bit like your father and your mother, and that's the same thing with biblical text. And so daughter versions are the younger versions. So, and we study them because for some texts we need them. We need text in order to figure out what is the Old Greek. So we study the Latin, the Coptic, the Armenian. We have teams and we work with teams. We can't do all the languages, but we have teams and we have good colleagues that we can count on.
And that's something that I was about to ask you, Dr. Dreyer. I mean, we got real people, real scholars working on these languages, like doing work, writing books and everything about this transmission in those languages that, trust me, there was a time that I had no idea those languages even existed.
Yeah, but that's normal. That's normal.
It's amazing.
That's normal. I mean, what we are having now in English and Spanish, those are translations of texts. So it's because this is the world that we now live in. We have Korean and Japanese and Mexican and South American. We have all these translations. That's normal.
Maybe the reason I'm saying this to you, Dr. Detroit, is because most of the time we live very insular, like thinking that we're in our very bubble and there's nothing outside. And no way, there's a whole big world in terms of languages and text of transmission and everything that we should know more about.
But don't forget that it's also the other way around. I mean, I'm just thinking of myself because, for instance, I think it's Honduras, you used to have, don't know whether she's still alive, Elisa or Elsa Tames.
Yes, Elsa Tames. She's from Costa Rica. Yeah.
She's from Costa Rica. You see, I had read her book and I thought, wow, right? So we should read each other's work, and it's normal. And so we have to open up our minds and learn more. Yeah.
Elsa Tames, she did the Spanish translation from Bruce Messiger's commentary on the New Testament. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for. Wow, I'm flattered that you are even talking about her. Wow.
She's good. She was good.
No, and that speaks very good on your part, Dr. Detroit, because you seem to be very. What's the word here? You seem to be very trying to get attention as much as possible, not only in your area but going beyond it.
Yeah,
which is something
I've learned that because if you say, I mean, most of the time, and I have to say I suffer from that as well. The things we don't know, we are afraid of, and we shouldn't be. We should just
it's a human thing.
Courage to look at other things and say, I don't know that yet. And so many times, it's and I have the bad habit of reading a lot of books, and so I always
have a good habit.
But it's like I need to read more because otherwise I lose track of what is happening. Yeah,
definitely. Okay, this is the last, not the least. Dr. Detroit, this has to do with the difficult books. Yeah. What can you say about this last section of your book chapter?
Yes, so in the difficult books, I call some books difficult because we don't know precisely what is the Old Testament or what is the Old Greek. And for me, I call the difficult books the books where we have multiple versions. So for instance, as I already said, the book of Jeremiah. you know,
Yes.
which version are we going to use as the book? Shall we use the long one as we have currently, or the
Mm.
short one? Or we have the book of Joshua. It's a difficult book because we have two different versions. The book of Judges, the Greek text is a nightmare. We don't know yet what is the old
Mm.
Greek. In Exodus, the Exodus text is very stable, like most Pentateuch. The Pentateuch is actually very stable, so that's good news, right?
Okay.
But the only thing that is still in debate is the sequence of the tabernacle chapters. So, hey, where do you put the tabernacle chapter, the tabernacle chapters? And so I call them
Mm.
difficult because we don't know yet. And if I look, it is Joshua is difficult,
Yeah.
Judges is difficult, Samuel and Kings. Oh my God, nightmare, nightmare, right? So it's just the other day I was reading the work of a Spanish scholar, Davide D'Amico, and he is working
Okay.
also on a proposal, and he's taking a text, and I thought, wow, this is going to be difficult because we don't know yet which text to compare with what. And so there are texts that are difficult because we have
Mm.
multiple versions, and those are not by accident, but because they are difficult, the books for which we don't have yet a critical edition of the Greek text. So although the critical edition of the Septuagint started in 1908, we still do not have the edition of Joshua, Judges, Samuel, and Kings because they're so
Ah.
difficult.
Yeah.
They're so
Yeah,
difficult.
it's a lot of work. It's a
Yeah.
lot of work. Okay, guys, you need to pay attention to this. All these remarks and comments Dr. Dutre has been doing along the way during this interview, which I am very grateful because she's opening a little bit for us laymen to see through it and to better understand what's going on, what's the state of the question here, of the matters on this subject, mainly the Septuagint. Okay, and there's a lot of things to discuss. There's a lot of things to ponder. We should be more humble. Okay, in the way that we are articulating our views on any specific subject matter, when it comes to the Bible, religion, and everything. So that's why I think that's one of the positive things that I could extract from scholarship, Dr. Detroyer, is to put this mindset of humbleness to remain open, because the evidence is continually changing. New texts are being discovered, new interpretations, methodological approaches, and everything are being proposed, and we need to be at least aware of them. And that's why I am trying to bring the scholars so we can hear from themselves, talk about whatever area of expertise they are working on, just like Dr. Detroyer in this case with the Septuagint. And also that's why I brought Joshua Alfaro. Shout out to Joshua Alfaro, whatever you are, my buddy. He will be returning to the show when he has the following book. But yeah, I agree. And Dr. Detroyer, conclusion, final comments. What can you tell us on this book chapter that you wrote?
I'm going to write much more. I should write more.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm already happy if people take away from this conversation that they should not be afraid to study and to learn
Sure.
things. And we stand in a long tradition of people who have lived with biblical texts, and so we should continue. We
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
continue. Y
Yeah.
gracias a
Definitely.
todos. Gracias a todos
Ah,
por
you
escucharme.
know,
Sí,
you beat me. You beat me to it because I was about to ask you something in Spanish.
sí.
No, your
Pregúntale.
Spanish is pretty good. Now, let me ask you: are you able just like to maintain a conversation in Spanish, or?
I can try because I try often because I'm often in the Spanish speaking context, and so
Oh,
but at the moment I'm learning Catalonian, so it's Catalan.
Catalonian? Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, amazing, Dr.
Yeah.
Detroyer, you are a role model. Let me tell you that.
So are you,
Yeah,
and thank you
definitely.
so much. Thank you so much for
So
inviting me.
again, I'm all I can say is just thankful. Thank for Dr. Victoria is to giving us her time, and
Yeah.
I'm glad we're coming here and going through this book chapter. You guys, you need to go and get that book. Go and just read all the chapters because they have valuable information about any subject matter they are addressing in that book. Dr. Detroyer, just like one last thing, something that you may have in the pipeline, projects that we need to be aware. Please let us know.
I'm writing a commentary on the book of Esther. So next year I'm going to do
series?
only Esther in the Hermenea series.
Hermenea, wow. Oh,
I have to do something next year.
that's the top, the hip of the top right there. I mean, Hermenea, it's a big thing. It's a big thing.
Okay.
So thank you. This is you know, can we say that this is like a what do you call it? What's the word? Primicia in Spanish. This is something that Dr. Detroyer is letting us know. I didn't know it. Now I know it.
Es primicia, sí, pero no es importante. Es solamente importante por la persona que falta escribirlo.
Okay, so everybody, just keep an eye on the future interviews. We're gonna be discussing. Oh, by the way, Florentino Garcia Martinez is coming to the show.
Oh,
big name.
Bueno.
Yeah. Dr. Detroyer knows who he is. Okay, so we're coming to an end here. And actually something happened here. We're gonna have to return. So again, keep an eye on that. Thank you for being here. Remember, los subtitles will be available for Spanish people. Los subtítulos estarán disponibles ahí, so keep an eye on that. So nos veremos hasta la próxima entrevista y gracias por estar aquí. Hasta la próxima.